Hello and welcome everyone as we continue our workshop series for the Designing for Empathy Summit and workshops. My name is Greg Stevens and I am delighted to be here as your moderator for today's workshop. And it's terrific to see so many familiar names and faces. Many of you have participated in workshops already this week and last weekend. And I love that we're able to build a sense of community here just by seeing your faces wherever you happen to be in the world. So thank you for sharing your time with us. Before we get started officially with our program, I do want to acknowledge that I am calling in to this program from New York City. And as such, we humbly acknowledge that New York City is located in the ancestral Lenape homelands, and we recognize the longstanding significance of these lands to Lenape nations, past and present. And I also know that our host and our guests are in Washington, D.C., and we equally acknowledge that the city of Washington, D.C. resides on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Anacostan peoples, and that Washington, D.C. neighbors the ancestral lands of the Piscataway and Pamunkey peoples. As many of you know, indigenous communities have lived in and moved through these lands over hundreds of generations, and indigenous peoples from many nations make their homes in these regions today. Please join us in recognizing and honoring their ancestors, descendants, elders, and all other members of their communities who have served as stewards of these lands for generations. So thank you for allowing that moment of acknowledgement. And it is my great pleasure to introduce you or reintroduce you to my friend and colleague, Elif Gokdem, who will more formally welcome you and introduce our program today. Hello, Elif.
Hello, Greg. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this really exciting workshop. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Donna Jonte and Aparna Sadananda from the Phillips Collection for hosting this workshop. We are very grateful for your presence. And for those who are just joining us new for the first time in this type of context, which is the Designing for Empathy Summit and workshops. This is the 4th annual of this event, and last year and this year it is virtual, but normally we would do this in person, and hopefully we'll get back to that very soon. So for those who are joining us new, I just would like to provide just a little bit of context about what is Designing for Empathy, what are we trying to do here, and why are we doing this? Our main goal with designing empathy workshops and summits is to create a platform where individuals from different backgrounds, disciplines, and sectors can come together to develop solutions to the empathy deficit in our world. We believe that our ability to develop individuals' capacity for empathy towards the oneness of all beings, all of humanity, the environment, and the planet, lies at the heart of our ability to solve our most complex problems. The challenges we face today, from social injustice to climate change, are not because we lack the intellectual capacity, technologies, or the resources to tackle them, but it is because caring for others as much as we care for ourselves, as if that other could be me, which makes us want to take action to alleviate their suffering or solve their problems, requires a major perspective shift. This is where we stop seeing ourselves as the centers of the universe and start recognizing that we are all interconnected parts of something much greater than ourselves. This pragmatic perspective shift from I to all can only be achieved through a lived experience. And empathy, our ability to imagine the world through another's perspective, provides the foundation. Something extraordinary happens when we empathize. Because of our inherent ability to empathize, our ego, which always puts I, me, myself in the front and center, gets distracted momentarily, while our true self, which is deeply rooted in our heart, in the qualities of love and compassion takes the helm of our attention and channels it and immerses it in another's perspective. This is not always easy because it requires us to look at the world in a whole new way. Instead of placing ourselves in the center of the universe, we realize that we are, and each being in the circle of oneness is unique and an essential component of our existence. This transformational shift in the way we perceive our world can only happen through an experience. And that's where designing for empathy comes in. We believe that because empathy can be best learned through lived experiences, creating those authentic experiences where individuals can discover, unlock, and advance their potential for empathy in safe and non-judgmental spaces become more essential. Designing for Empathy workshops are here to provide a platform for a diverse group of individuals to come together and experiment with the creation of these perspective shifting experiences that lead to a spark of empathy on a journey towards a realization of the oneness of all beings. Thank you so much again for your presence. And with that little introduction, I would love to invite our workshop facilitators, Donna and Aparna, to please introduce themselves and lead us into the experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elif. I would like to start by inviting all of us to take 2 minutes to arrive into this session. So I would like to offer you all a 2-minute short check-in meditation practice, and then we'll get started with our workshop. So please find a way of sitting upright, letting your shoulders relax. Maybe your eyes could close. If you find that's distracting, just lower your gaze. And let's start by sharing 3 deep breaths together. Breathing in through nose. Exhaling maybe through mouth. Breathing in. Breathing out. And now slowly invite your awareness to arrive into your body, noticing where the body touches the support, such as the floor or the chair seat, maybe. Taking a moment to let the body's weight relax through these points of support. You're giving yourself the permission to just be. Just be and receive all the loving kindness that the universe wants to offer at this moment. From there, slowly let your attention shift to the rest of the body. So you may feel an awareness of the entire body and its presence where you are, just as you are. So in that awareness of your presence and the breath coursing through that presence, making it living, embodied, each inhale becomes a reminder of being here. Each exhale a reminder of being in the now. Maybe for the next 5 breaths, simply repeat on the inhale, I'm here. On the exhale, now. Connecting a little deeper, just notice any sensations that might be in your feet, in the lower legs, knees and thighs, hips in the seat, lower back, the upper back, the shoulders, chest, and the waist. the arms and the hands, the neck, the face, and the head. Notice this body as the space that is containing all of these sensations. Breathing in here, breathing out now. And let's all set a shared intention here to hold a loving, kind, non-judgmental space for ourselves, for whatever is. So our entire practice today in this workshop becomes a living act of the practices of kindness, compassion, and empathy. You're free to join your palms in prayer and bow to the light that shines within you. And when you feel a little more present, and we're ready to explore the practices of today's offering. So once again, thank you so much for sharing this brief meditation practice with me. And I would like to also start by thanking the Phillips Collection for offering me this opportunity to not only present this workshop, but also being able to participate in this entire summit and its workshops. And with that, I would like to invite my colleague Donna, so we can go ahead and introduce ourselves first.
Thank you, Aparna, and thank you, Greg and Elif, for this wonderful opportunity to contemplate moving from the I to the all. Aparna, do you want to screen?
Yes, Donna and Greg, if you could please make me the co-host or enable sharing, please. Are you able to see the PowerPoint, Donna?
Do you want to put it in presentation view? Okay, thanks. Great. I'm going to introduce Aparna, and then Aparna will introduce me. We work collaboratively, moving from the I to the we. Aparna comes to mindfulness practice from a science background. She holds a PhD in cellular neuroscience from the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Mumbai, India. She has more than 5,000 hours of experience teaching yoga and meditation in studio, private, and corporate settings in the Washington, D.C. area. Inspired by her own journey as an evolving yogi, mama of a now 2-year-old little boy, a neuroscience researcher, and a visual artist, her classes help us strengthen the mind-body-breath connection. In addition to teaching yoga for Yoga District in Washington, D.C., Aparna leads meditation workshops for the Freer Sackler, the Smithsonian's National Museum of Asian Art, as well as for the Phillips. I'm always thankful to have Aparna help me see more deeply all those connections among mind, body, art, and science.
Thank you so much, Donna. And let me now please introduce my wonderful colleague and collaborator, Donna Jonte. And of course, I know, and many of us here in this meeting know her as the Manager of Art and Wellness and Family Programs at the Phillips Collection. But to know more, I'm going to read out her bio. So here we have. So Donna Jonte is particularly interested in integrating mindful looking into museum experiences. She works with all audiences from pre-K to older adults with dementia, developing and implementing programs that link art and wellness and combining viewing art, talking about art, and making art. Amongst the many accolades that she has, she was also named the DC Art Educator of the Year in 2019 by the DC affiliate of the National Art Educational Association. So with that, thank you so much, Donna, for collaborating with me on this project. And together, we hope to share the same experience, or at least a similar experience to what we practice each Wednesday in this offering of art-inspired meditation that we offer through the Phillips Collection. So every week we are inspired by a work of art, and we explore it through the lenses of meditation and mindfulness, as well as exploring it through factual information. And now I would like Donna to introduce us to the program today, to the workshop that we're going to offer today.
Thank you. So today we will build empathy through art-inspired meditation. We'll demonstrate some of the strategies that we use every Wednesday in the museum. We hope we will connect mind, body, and art in 3 experiences informed by yoga and mindfulness. We will build empathy through knowing, being, contextualizing, and perspective taking through art. All right. So we invite you to take a careful look at this work of art. We're going to spend 1 minute looking carefully at this particular work of art. So I invite you to make yourselves comfortable wherever you are. You're in your chair, standing up, lying down, make yourselves comfortable, but make sure you can see the screen. Take a breath in, exhale. So let's just start looking. You'll be in silence. I'll guide you through a little bit. Just notice where your eye goes and where your eye wants to go next. Let your eye wander through the image. Let's zoom in a little bit and see what a detail might look like. Do the same. Let your eye just trace a path through this part of the work of art. What are you noticing? Where is the work of art taking you? We have 5 more seconds. Let's go back to the entire view. See if you can notice something new. All right, our minute is up. Close your eyes just for a moment. Open them. Take a breath in. Let it out. Now, I invite you to think about the words that came into your mind while we were looking for that 1 minute, that 60 seconds. What are some words that came into your mind? Please put those words in the chat, 1 or 2 words. And Aparna, do you want to read a few of these words in a minute? And
Absolutely.
We'll listen to them. Go ahead.
Sure, Donna. We have responses as adventure, neural network, topography, whale, magic, ocean, light, floating mermaid, detailed, flow, fluid, pearls, transparency, droplets of water, flotation, filigree lace, ghostly movement, and then flow, suspension, anthropomorphic, and peace. We have many more responses: wave, complex, organic, water, creature, connectedness, plastic, net, and Michelle says, ah.
Yeah, that's a good response.
I know.
Now I invite you to think of one question or one puzzle you have after that 60 seconds of looking and these few seconds of listening to the various responses. One question about the work of art, for the artist, for the universe, one question. And you can put that in the chat too.
So we have a question from Donna. How is it suspended? Then what inspired it? How long did it take to create? How does it hang together? Can I make that? Is it pearls? Is it made from white beads? What was the intention of the artist? Why create it? And does it move?
Yeah. Those are beautiful questions that we all have in mind. How is it? How long did it take to make it? What was the artist thinking as she made it? Why did she call it what she called it? Does anybody remember the name, the title of the work? Yeah. Defying Gravity. It certainly could, yes, we can give it a new title. It could be Defying Gravity. That is really what it's about, isn't it? Alison Schatz called it Illusion of Gravity. Illusion with an A, alluding to gravity. Yeah. So there's lots to say about Alison Schatz's work. As you know from these questions, it's a pretty fascinating work of art. And in our PowerPoint that you will receive when you get the recording of this, there are some links to information on the website. So when we started our close looking, our 60 seconds of close looking, that slide included what we call at the museum the tombstone or the wall label with some information. So Aparna and I were just thinking about wondering how having that bit of information next to the image of the artwork affects your perception of the work. Did any of you notice that? Did it distract you? Was it in your mind as you were looking? I think I see Paul responding to that question. That bit of information would let you know that this is a huge work of art. It is so big. It's almost 9 feet by 8 feet by 13 feet. So if you have that bit of information, it might change your perception of the work of art. One of you asked, or one of you noticed that the glass beads are like pearls, and that reminded you of perhaps jewelry or a necklace. But when you think, this is so big, it fills a gallery, then your perception is a little bit different. Paul, am I putting words into your?
Paul just shared his thoughts here. He says, I was aware that it was there, but didn't read it too much because I only had 60 seconds. And Donna, that brings to my attention a very important aspect of our day-to-day lives. We're so busy that sometimes we just try to do what we can in the time that we have. And well, that's a great, very effective way of, experiencing the world around us. What I also noticed in your responses is that many of you came to it from an intuitive place, like from a place of where you experienced the art, even though you may not have noticed a lot of facts associated with this work of art, right? And that's the idea behind this art-inspired meditation. So while we, of course, have the opportunity to look at it through facts and information, we can also know it from a meditative place. And I would like to invite you to explore that path with this next meditation. So I'm going to go back to sharing the screen and share the picture with you of Alison Schatz's Illusion of Gravity. And as always, I invite you to sit upright just so that you can breathe easy. And now take a moment to go back to that practice of close looking, where you visualize the entirety of this installation. And as you observe it, like maybe a cloud or as a picture on this screen, notice the distance that separates. Notice how that space separates you as the observer and this installation as that which is being observed. Now maybe close your eyes, and in your imagination, can you visualize or make a picture of this art in that imagination? If you missed out a certain detail and you're curious to look at it again, go ahead, take a look at it. Imagine it in any way that you see this work at this moment. Notice how the simple act of imagining what you're seeing has begun to dissolve that separation, which separates you as the observer and the art as the observed. Let that image be. I invite you to bring your awareness back to your body, to the physical body. And can you pay attention to all the structures in the body that create a sense of weight or heaviness, that which draws the body in the downward direction? You might notice the bones, muscles, everything that's solid about the body. For a moment, let your weight be released through the points of contact. You're letting the body surrender to gravity. Now lengthen the spine. It's kind of like from those roots that we just explored, we're rising up. Noticing structures that are allowing you to resist that gravity. And now when you think of these opposing forces, forces pulling the body down and the forces lengthening it up, do you notice a lightness to what you're seeing in this installation? Like your body is an art installation that's floating in the sea of gravity, just like Alison Schott's illusion of gravity. Come back to the body again. And we'll focus on the inner volume and space within each part of the body. So bringing attention to our feet. Can we know our feet's presence from the awareness of the inner volume and spaciousness inside the feet? Slowly let your attention rise through the lower legs. Noticing the inner volume and space. And then slowly let your attention rise up further through the legs. You can be with the legs. Like if you couldn't see or move your legs, how do you know they're there? Then gently shift your attention up into the torso. Again, exploring the inner space and volume, the shape that is holding it all. Shifting awareness to your arms and hands, neck and the head. Can we feel the body as a combination of open spaces enclosed by something that's more solid, something more definitive? And now as we open our eyes to look at the sculpture, how do you relate to it? Do you still feel the same separation? Or do you feel a constant, like a constant flow? And here, let's pause our practice to take about a minute so we can share our responses to how we connected with this work of art when we looked at it just through the lens of facts and after this meditation practice. How did that change your view of the art? How did it make you feel connected to the art, if it did? Oh, that's right, Michelle. You feel drawn to the piece and the desire to be close to it, touch it, dance around, under or within it. Robert, as you shared, from one to many, especially in those repetitive units, if I may call the pieces or parts of that work of art.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa shares that I wanted to walk around it to see it from all the sides, and we're going to get to that in a moment. Megan shares that they felt like imagining what it would be like to be the artwork suspended in, and that's exactly, what we thought about when we, wanted to offer this meditation is, can we, through our practice, can we engage with the art as the other? So first, by knowing the self, can we know this other, this art, and learn from that experience, gain insights from that experience? How does knowing shift to being and becoming, in this case, the artwork? And this is the practice of what in yoga is called as Samadhi. So going to the next slide. Just a moment.
While you're pulling that up, Aparna, I'm going to read a statement from Alison Schatz, the artist, that reminded me of what one of you said about connectedness of the sculpture, perhaps as a metaphor for our universe, our community, or our Zoom world, when we're looking at all these little tiles connecting us in the larger world. Alison Schatz said, illusion of gravity is made with clear round glass beads which reflect the light and let the sculpture transform with the changing natural light during the day. Each bead also acts as a magnifying glass for all the other beads, creating mini sculptures within the larger sculpture. And then that depends on our perception of looking at it. And imagine if you were lying on the floor looking from above, how that would be different from looking from the side.
There we go. I was able to pull up the PowerPoint.
Great.
So what you can see here are the 8 limbs of yoga. So the whole practice of yoga has been codified into these 8 limbs by a saint called Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras, which is a seminal work when we talk about the history of yoga and the literature that we have about yoga. And the 8 limbs of yoga, you can see that the topmost limb is like Samadhi. And what Samadhi means is a deep state of meditation when there is the shining of the light of the object alone, as if devoid of the form. And you can see how the concept of Samadhi so directly relates to the idea of empathy, because empathy also is about putting yourself in the shoes of another person and being able to act from an awareness of that understanding, that relationship, that connection to the other, to that which is the other, right? And also, when we talk about yoga, yoga is often translated these days as union of the individual self with the universal self. But I think it's also, and in the earlier days before the Yoga Sutras, yoga was also a way of transcending the limitations of the self so we can unify with the whole, merge into the oneness that surrounds us. Right? So you can see how through this meditation practice, we were exploring not just Samadhi, but we were also practicing the steps of dhyana and dharana. So when we were closely examining what we were seeing, it was like a practice in concentration, bringing your mind and binding it to one place, one object or idea. And then when that process becomes a little more effortless and there's this flow-like state where the meditator and that which is being meditated upon becomes one, that is technically described as dhyana. So I hope this practice that we just did allowed you to explore this idea of dhyana, dharana, and samadhi, and through that, samadhi. Now, you might have also noticed that if you have seen this work of art or practiced this meditation with us before, and you did it today, the response may have been different. And in fact, the word empathy, its origins come from a German expression, Einfühlung, which was used to describe the experience that the viewer brings to viewing art. And we can see how that is so context dependent. And I would like to now request Donna to share more on that by sharing a few more pictures.
Thank you. Yeah. So museums are beautiful places to be. They give us multiple ways of seeing and recognizing other stories. We can feel into the works of art that we see. So here is an image from our recent anniversary exhibition called Seeing Differently that places Alison Schatz's work, Illusion of Gravity, in a different gallery than we were looking at it before. So I want to ask you how this context, this installation changes your view of the work. As we're thinking about how museums give us multiple stories and invite us in to feel into the work. Yeah. It has a strong presence, taking up, yes, it does. And the shadows. Thank you for noticing that the shadows become part of the work. A dartboard, you're looking at the work of art on the left. That is by Leo Villarreal. It's called Scramble, and it is a digital work that's it keeps moving, it's in motion, and it apparently never repeats the pattern. Notice the light sources in this room and think about Alison Schatz's fascination with physics and with light and refraction and reflection and physics of space. In that first image we used when we meditated, there was an artificial light bulb way at the top on the top left. But here you notice these windows that bring in natural light way up in a very tall ceiling here in this gallery. And then, of course, the light from Villarreal's colorful Scramble that's moving constantly. Yes. Yes, we have this feeling of infinity. Certainly without that pattern that doesn't repeat, there's no pattern, right? Infinity. So the Phillips is well known for placing art in conversation. The Phillips does not organize its collection chronologically the way you might see at the National Gallery of Art or the Louvre. Here, the works are connected in many different ways. The curators might surprise us. They invite us to make meaning, to figure things out, to be part of this story. let's look at the next slide, which shows just a few more installation views, just so we get an idea of how context really can shape our connection to the work of art. Yeah. Yeah, the work could be enclosed or expansive depending on the gallery. The gallery with those dark gray walls has the highest ceiling in the museum, I think. And the dark paint on the walls gives you a different sense than the work of art against the white wall. Yeah. Even the pattern of the floor will change the way you see the work of art. Yeah. So thank you. So the museum is offering us so many different perspectives on each work of art. We'll spend a little bit of time with this work of art, which is installed in these images in the stairwell. It's an elliptical stairwell in the annex. So the picture on the right, the bird flying diagonally, really does make you have a sense of motion because it's in a tall stairwell that goes up the 3 flights of stairs. So, yeah. So we'll have another brief meditation with this beloved work of art. We love this work of art so much at the Phillips by Alexander Calder, Only Bird, created in 1951 out of found objects. And it was acquired in 1966, right after an exhibition that Marjorie Phillips, the wife of the founder, Duncan Phillips, curated about the birds. And this has lived in the museum since 1966. So Aparna, I invite us to help us enter into this world more deeply through meditation.
Thank you, Donna. So I'm going to spotlight a different device. So we can all do a little bit of a movement practice. And I hope you can all see and hear me clearly. If you're having any difficulty, please do let me know. So I invite you to take a moment to just feel your feet. So please cross one foot to the other and take a moment to just maybe look at the sole of your foot, and then use a thumb to trace a line from the front of your heel all the way to the base of the ball mat of your big toe, the spongy pad just below your toe, and then trace that line back. Then from the heel, let's move our thumb to the second toe and back. And now that you're familiar with what we're doing, close your eyes and just let that proprioceptive awareness allow you to trace that thumb from the heel to the base of the ball mat of each toe. You can also trace backwards from the 5th toe to the heel, and then the 4th toe to the heel, and so on. When that is complete, step your left foot down and just notice the left to right difference. And then we'll go on to do the same practice on the right foot at the sole. So tracing from the heel to the big toe. And slowly moving the thumb, heel to ball mat to heel. And then step your right foot down just to notice how this practice is shaping your awareness of being on your feet, even in a seated position. The feet root us to the floor. The rest of the body seems to rise. like a bird taking off in flight. And if for any reason you cannot stand up from your chair or practice the next few steps of this meditation, standing around the chair, I invite you to bring your attention to that lightness, to the force that allows you to lift off if your body was the bird's body. If you can practice standing, please join me by rising on your feet and then maybe standing beside your chair or a desk, something which doesn't move. And we'll step the right foot back about 3 feet. We're going to place both the heels on the floor and stretch as if we're stretching the floor. Square your hips and breathe. Me repeat, I'm here now as you breathe in and out. Now bend your front knee and slowly shift your weight forward, maybe tippy-toeing on the back foot, maybe lifting that foot up, leg up, paddle to the floor. You can steady your posture by gazing at the floor or a point in front of you on the floor. And then to get that sense of flight, feel free to lift one hand to heart, maybe both hands to heart, or you can stretch out your arms like wings. If you fear you're going to lose balance, you always have that support in front of you. Take your time to steady here, and then when you want a little moment of flight, you may bring your hands to heart, stretch your arms out maybe. And if you notice you're holding the breath, breathe. Can we relax into this space? Can we relax into this which feels unknown? And then slowly make your way out, stepping the back foot down, lifting up, and stepping through. What do you notice within your body, within your mind? And then we'll go on to practice this on the other side, stepping the other foot behind. Same practice, stretching the floor with our feet and heels, squaring the hips, folding forward. And bending that front knee so we can shift the weight forward and lift. Maybe you're noticing some left to right difference as you practice this pose on each side. Take your time, hold space for what is. Breathing in here, breathing out now. Maybe hands to heart or arms out. And slowly come out. Rise and step through. And the standing position, what we call as mountain pose in yoga. Just check in with yourself. What was the experience in the mind body that came up when you tried to take off like a bird in flight? What forces did your body experience? You tried to stabilize in that balancing position. And how did you experience that in the vertical, horizontal, and the third dimension of this body? We'll take another minute just to explore that same position called Warrior 3. balancing on one leg. You can do this supported. You may bring hands to heart. Notice the shape of the body here. Notice the way it shapes your breath, shapes your attention. Then we'll come back, rising up and stepping through. And we'll stay here in mountain pose for a few breaths, checking in. Then come back to our chairs. And now take a look at the only bird. How do you relate to this? How does this work of art speak to you now? We'll take some time here to exchange responses as to how the practice may have cultivated shifts in your awareness. Robert has shared, I need to exercise more. We all need to, don't we? Dwayne, yes, it is a challenging pose. And Donna shares that the bird seems to have more movement, absolutely. The bird seems happy and ready to fly. Yes. Whimsical, limits and limitless, exploring the position, exploring our own position in space. And Paul, that's right. You feel the outstretched legs of the bird and the shape of the, and the unsteadiness of the body in that position. And Christopher says that you appreciate the bird's ability to be fully present, absolutely. And it also reminds us of how this is not a natural posture for us, being in a human body, and the mind and the thoughts coming up with that experience, right? So in this way, you can see how even the practice of asana, which is another limb of yoga, can be adapted to mindfulness and meditation practice. So we practice movement as meditation, and the art can serve as a useful inspiration for that experience. So now we'll go back to our slides. And Donna, would you like to briefly talk about this work of art?
And I am mindful of time, so we'll be just pretty brief with the next portion of this. We just meditated in space. Our bodies felt that gesture that Alexander Calder took us through. Other artists use body and gesture very overtly to build empathy. And here we see the work of a young artist, Wilmer Wilson IV, with his photograph in the middle. That's the work of art at the Phillips Collection called Self-Portrait as Henry Box Brown. It's a prototype for a performance piece he did in 2012. Can you see what he has covered his body with? And do you recognize those in your drawer of stamps from long ago? These stamps were called, they're part of the American Craft Collection. So Wilmer Wilson covering his body for a reason with stamps. What might that reason be? Here we have it. Because he identifies with a real person, a historical person, Henry Box Brown, who was born into slavery in 1815 and mailed himself to freedom with the help of abolitionists in 1849 from Richmond, Virginia to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on a journey of 27 hours. It was in a wooden crate with breathing holes. Wilmer Wilson says that he identifies with this historic figure because, for many reasons, his hometown, Wilmer Wilson's hometown, is Richmond, Virginia. And he says, quote, through Henry Box Brown's intense desire to achieve basic human rights, he sent himself through the mail to the free North. That notion that his quixotic, almost grotesque scheme was necessary to achieve a basic desirable life condition is relevant today. So in a re-examination of that story, I will create skins out of thousands of US postage stamps during each of my 3 performances in Washington, DC, walk through the streets in 3 different neighborhoods in DC, and try to mail myself to freedom at local post offices. And that is what he did, but the post offices would not mail him to freedom. So in the post office, he peels off his skin of stamps and ends each performance. This kind of art is a call to action, certainly drawing on empathy, and it's fusing the artist with the object. It's very performative, and you can read more, and you might know these stories already, that Henry Box Brown himself became a performer of his own story and took his story all across the United States and even to Britain, spreading the story of kept from enslavement to freedom. Aparna and I choose our inspirations very carefully, very intentionally, and we included Wilmer Wilson's self-portrait as Henry Box Brown in our series on identity, on the question, the spiritual question of who am I? And we connected it to our centennial exhibition, Seen Differently, in the identity section. And these show you some of the works of art that we included, all about identity and asking the question, who am I? I want to show you the next slide that places these works in the context. So you can see the conversations that are generated between the 2 works of art. Here you go. And this conversation, of course, was prompted, facilitated, happens because of the founding of the museum. The museum has a story too. So every work of art has a story, the artist has a story, you put them together. The story of the museum is very profound. The Phillips Collection is the first museum of modern art in America. 100 years ago, in 1921, the museum was founded as a result of another pandemic. Duncan Phillips lost his brother James in 1918 to influenza. Their father had died the year before. In his overwhelming grief, Duncan said, "I turn to my love of art for the will to live." He, along with his wife and his mother, opened 2 rooms of this home in DuPont Circle that you see on the screen as the Phillips Memorial Gallery, intending it to be, quote, a beneficent force in the community with a collection that would be joy-giving and life-enhancing. As you've seen through our presentation, through the meditations, this compassionate vision to be joy-giving and life-enhancing is what guides our curatorial and educational practices today, linking art and wellness. And we're going to close our session. I know we're running out of time by looking at one more work of art. And Aparna, can you tell us about this?
Sure. Thank you, Donna. And we want to close our offering today with this work of art called Mapasa by the Congolese artist M.A. Mapane. And when you see this picture, it invites a sense of togetherness, of embracing each other just as we are. And I would like to offer a short meditation, a 2-minute practice in honor of this work. So please find a comfortable seat. Maybe close your eyes. Bring your awareness to the body where it is. And imagine if all the goodness of the universe, whatever that means to you, all the goodness of the universe takes on the form of light. Light that is gushing into the body from the crown. Like our bodies are bathed in a waterfall of all the goodness of the universe in the form of light, maybe a color of your choice. Just imagine that light permeating each and every cell of your being, nourishing, healing, rejuvenating. And the more the body is relaxed, the more this light is absorbed and assimilated by the body. At some point, if we visualize our body, it looks like a star glowing with all the goodness of the universe. So just imagine the entire body as an embodiment of light. Now imagine, as we all in this meeting visualize that, each one of us is like a star. As we collectively share our thoughts, our attention, this light is naturally weaving through all of us. If we were to view this from maybe the outer space, it would all look like a network of light. Notice how in this awareness, naturally our consciousness has a chance to expand, to transcend the limitations of the self. And let's honor this togetherness, this sense of community, by sharing a prayer from Sanskrit. The meaning of this prayer is, may all beings be well, may all beings be free from disease, may all beings see the beauty and the goodness of life, may there be no suffering. Now, please allow me to share this in Sanskrit. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be disease-free. May we all see that which is good and auspicious. May there be no suffering. We're here now, and we're together. Let's close our practice, bringing palms in prayer, and bowing to this light of togetherness that binds us all. May we also take a moment to honor the light of all the teachings of yoga, as well as teachings of the teachers of yoga, which continues to guide us as we take this practice into the present day world. The light in me honors the light in you. Thank you so very much for sharing your presence and practice with us today. If you found our idea of this program, the philosophy behind it, to resonate with you, we invite you to join us every week on Wednesday at this link here that we provided on this slide. We'll also leave it in the chat. We hope you can join us on this art-inspired meditation practice that we offer each Wednesday, 12:45 to 1:30 p.m. EST. And if you have any questions for us, please feel free to write to us at these email addresses, or you can reach out to me on my Instagram handle, which is by the same name, Aparna Sadananda. We hope to hear from you soon. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. And I hope you can visit the museum in person too. We love to see you virtually every Wednesday. We'd also love to see you at the museum. So please reach out, send us an email if you need any more information about that. Thanks again, and apologies for going a little over.
Not to worry. Thank you so much, Donna and Aparna. Really lovely way to end our Friday afternoon, or perhaps evening for some of you. And just as a quick reminder, we did put into the chat box a link to a workshop survey. We would certainly appreciate you giving us your feedback, and thank you for doing so. And also, Alif, maybe you can offer a reminder about your workshop tomorrow.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Aparna. This was a gift, truly. Thank you so much for leading us through this experience. And we need to have another workshop just to talk about this workshop, I think. You know, it was just so rich, and there's so much to share, you know. So thank you so much for this rich experience. So we have, and I've noticed some questions here. Are there other workshops? So this event is a Phillips event, but they graciously joining us as part of the Designing for Empathy Summit and workshops. This is an experimental platform, as I explained in the beginning of our conversation. So we have other workshops continuing next week, including Saturday. Tomorrow I have one with filmmaker from Russia. Me in and we just created this exercise of non-judgmental listening and dialogue, but our focus will be artwork, her award-winning short film that was just released, which is called Portraiture. And if you feel like you just want to, you know, just join like one workshop, I put the link to our summit, which is under One.Empathy.Network.com. Please reach out to either Donna or Aparna or to me, and I can just put my email here for a complimentary pass. You don't have to sign up for the whole thing, but if you can, we would love to have you. But if you feel like you can just you want to just try out, you know, other approaches, please join us. Let us know. Thank you so much again for joining. Thank you.
Elif, I quickly wanted to thank everybody from the meditation community. So a lot of participants here today are from the meditations on Wednesday and Friday. So thank you to all. There's so many familiar names. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your presence and practice with us.
Thank you.